Representative Allemand.
Present.
Representative Angelos.
Here.
Representative Harrelson.
Here.
Representative Pendergraft.
Here.
Representative Sherwood.
Here.
Representative Smith.
Here.
Chairman Bear.
Here.
Mr. Vice Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Childress. Before us, it looks like we have Representative Campbell to present House Bill 120. Would you mind walking us and presenting the bill, please?
I would love to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee, for giving me the time to do this today. House Bill 120 is the Energy Product Reclassification and Sovereignty Act. This act relates to the administration of the government. It provides duties for the Wyoming Energy Authority, providing for the establishment of industrial sovereign zones to encourage the production of value-added manufactured products using natural gas, providing legislative findings, providing for certification of value-added manufactured processes, providing for an expedited licensing and permit process, providing tax exemptions, making conforming amendments, and providing for an effective date. So if we look through this, it gives you a little general outline to where it says legislative findings. And the one I want to point out is paragraph A or with the Romanet 1 there, where it says hostile legislative mandates in other jurisdictions constitute an unconstitutional burden on Wyoming's interstate commerce. And that's what really is to the heart of this bill, guys. As a raw feedstock, Wyoming's natural gas can be blockaded by state policies on the West Coast. What this is an effort to, I don't want to necessarily say circumvent, but work around those policies. And so with definitions, we'll go through it, defines authority given to the WEA, that's all pretty self-describing. Basically what we want to do, and I'm just going to paraphrase this in a nutshell. Right now, the Asian market is probably the biggest, hottest demand in the globe right now. It's a global play. And what has happened is with the Paris Accords Agenda 2030, regardless of what we think here in Wyoming or in America, these Asian countries have signed on to this. And in 2030, they're going to start having all their light vehicles, light trucks, all of that's going to be run on a hydrogen. And then they're isolated. So most of Japan, for example, most of their power comes from coal-fired power plants. Japan does not have resources of their own. So in order to make their existing coal fleet carbon friendly, they have been mixing 80-20 slurries of coal and ammonia because that ammonia burns so clean. And as such, they've been able to reduce the carbon footprint of their coal-fired power plants 30-40%. Going in their naval vessels the same way. As I'm to understand it, they want to do an ammonia diesel blend with their larger boats, again, to cut down on emissions. So hydrogen, I don't know if everybody knows this or not. Hydrogen is the first element on the periodic table. It's very light, it's very flammable, it's very difficult to transport. That is the energy that the Asian market wants. Okay, where does ammonia come in? If you have hydrogen, all you have to do is take a piece of nitrogen out of the grade D air, the air around us, and you smack that onto that hydrogen. Well, now you've created ammonia. And the beauty of that is not only is ammonia being used as an energy source by itself, but the ammonia is the carrier vessel. It is very difficult to transport hydrogen. It is very easy to transport ammonia. So not only are they using ammonia as an actual fuel itself, that is the carrier vessel to get the hydrogen to Asia. Once they get this ammonia to Asia, all they have to do is crack that nitrogen off, and bam, they have their hydrogen. Not only that, but now they have their nitrates for demolitions, explosives, fertilizers. There's a lot of different things with that. So right now in 2026, Japan and South Korea, most specifically, are soliciting 20-year contracts going from 2030 to 2050. And this is the clean energy that they want. There is even a little bit more of a caveat here. Now, this is to tell you the demand, the global demand for this product. And this is in its infancy, guys. It's not like we're playing catch up. We are right on the cusp of this. We are moving with it as it moves. This gives us a great advantage. First of all, we've got to look at who we're competing against. Our domestic competitors would be Texas, Louisiana, and New Mexico. Right now in Texas and Louisiana, both of those have got $4 or $5 billion hydrogen facilities that are being constructed as we speak. The way that they got those, of course, they have the gas just like we do, but they have coastal access with the Gulf of America. And that has always given them a very distinct advantage. But we're centrally located. And we have several gas hubs here in Wyoming. So it is with these gas hubs in mind to the next stage of this bill, the sovereign zones. And what these are is we're working with our counties, because the counties are the one who set up the industrial zones. What we're doing would be working with the counties to create a special industrial zone inside of that pre-existing industrial zone. The thought process behind this is to expedite construction. On big facilities like this, for every year that they're pushed back or delayed, it costs them $200 to $300 million. So by expediting, by putting a special zone inside an existing zone, we can do this because all the legwork has already been done on this. It's already a heavy industrial zone. So by doing that, we can do a 45-day public comment period. That's changed a little bit. That's why I wanted you guys to get these amendments out here, because this bill has transformed a couple of times to get to where we are here now. This is the current bill that is in front of you guys. But once we have the Energy Authority, will have the ability to work with the counties to create these zones. Inside of these zones, I call them manufacturing zones. We're going to take one raw product, natural gas, one raw product. We are going to rearrange the molecules in this product, in this raw resource, and we are going to create 3 manufactured products from that raw resource. We are going to create hydrogen, we are going to create ammonia, and we are going to create carbon black. The beauty of the ammonia and the hydrogen is now these are no longer raw materials. Now they're a manufactured product. And under the Commerce Clause in the United States Constitution, the West Coast has the ability via their state policies to block our raw materials, but they cannot under law block our manufactured products. So as such, immediately we would be able to via rail ship our hydrogen, ammonia, and carbon black to market legally. Not only that, but by this, we would be able to launder, and I don't know if that's the right word, folks, but we could put 20% hydrogen in our existing natural gas pipelines. If you go more than that, makes the steel brittle and it's not real viable. There is a lot of things that can come from this, and that's on the energy sector. On the carbon black, that is a bone ale by itself, because basically this is graphite. But because of the high temperature process used to create the hydrogen, this is some of the most pure graphite in the world. So we're able to use this as nanocarbons. We would be able to create nanocarbon manufacturing, like for phones, car parts, gun parts, anything that's nanocarbon, we would actually be able to do. And that's one of my one of the complaints that my constituents have brought to me, is they said, Representative, we need manufacturing in Wyoming. And I said, well, yeah, we do, but we were very limited on our raw materials that we have available to us. This is a raw material that we have lots of. By doing this, now we have, let's say we attract a facility to the Opal hub in Lincoln County, Wyoming. They're going to come in here with the opportunity to build. Whatever company comes in to build this project is going to assume all the capital construction cost. They're going to assume all of the risk. There will be no subsidies. There will be no tax dollars. Not only that, but if we brought in a $4 billion facility, the ad valorem taxes from that facility would saturate the schools in Lincoln County. That would allow us to redistribute the money that was sent to them across the rest of the states, which I believe would have a huge impact on our school funding. The next thing, very specifically with this, with natural gas, we're dead pooled. Back in the 1990s, when I broke out in the oil field, the Jonah Field and Pinedale Anticline were brand new, and they were hugely profitable for Wyoming. California bought all the gas we could sell them, and it was a big hug fest. Everybody was happy with the deal. Well, as California's environmental policies have changed, it's not so much of a love fest anymore. As a matter of fact, I will say that I feel that the western coastal states are actually hostile to Wyoming industry. And so that demand has gone down, 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 down. And our gas prices reflect that. The Henry Hub down in Louisiana is what sets America's gas price. When you see, whatever the dollar amount is, a million cubic feet, that's set down at the Henry Hub. Up here at the Opal Hub in Wyoming, our gas is selling for $2 below that price because we're bottlenecked. We don't have any way to get our product to market, and the former people who used to want our product no longer do. So basically what we're looking at now is, what are we going to do with our gas industry? All of us have looked at the Craig report and seen it's straight down. So what this bill is going to do is, not only are we going to be able to manufacture products that we can launder, I hate that word, I don't know if that's the right word, that we will be able to safely export out of our state. Back last session when we were down here, I know I drove a lot of you guys crazy because I was constantly telling you about California Assembly Bill 35. And they were trying to ban outright fossil fuels as a feedstock. I talked to the bringer of that bill multiple times. And basically on the 12th of January this year, California told me, hey man, we're not interested in fossil fuels, period. And so it dawned on me, why are we trying to sell a cheap commodity to California so they can capitalize and make value-added products? Why can we not do that here in Wyoming? And that is what this bill is attempting to do. With methane, this bill specifically relates to natural gas. But natural gas is not the only pathway with this. We also have coal bed methane, and we have a few other technologies that we're looking at. So what we did when this bill made it to the Minerals Committee, there was amendments made to where we wanted to include and coal. Well, it turns out there's two statutes for coal where there's only for one, and the fiscal was changing quite a little bit. And so because these service contracts they're only soliciting these contracts through November of 2026. So if we don't act, these contracts are not going to come around again until 2045. Originally, when this came up, I wanted to kind of kick this to the interim, but because of these time constraints is the reason why I brought it forth as is. But we took coal off, and I hope you guys all got a copy of the latest amendments. And basically what these amendments are is we took directive from Director Parafit with the DEQ. We took his recommendations. We took Jeremy, I can't remember Jeremy's last name, with the county commissioners. Yes, Ryman, yes. And we took his considerations into here. And like I said, we also originally added coal in there. We took coal out. We left everything else as is. And the purpose for that is we want to go ahead and be able to pursue these contracts without jiggling things. And we also would like to use the interim to make sure that we vet this correctly and bring coal methane in correctly to where we're not rushing things. Okay, the last part of this that I want to bring to your guys' attention is I call it the gold standard. You could call it whatever, the Cowboy standard, Wyoming standard, whatever. But the purpose of that voluntary certification is because the Asian market will pay a 5 to 15% premium if we can certify that the fuel that we're selling is the cleanest fuel on the planet. And we can do it. The reason for this was back in the early 2000s, California started putting constraints on our natural gas producers. One of these constraints was that they had to be able to prove that they did not have any leaks on their pipelines and they were below the 0.2% emission level. Well, Wyoming's operators jumped through the hoops. They did everything that they were asked to do. In California, turned around and said, well, good on you, but we're still not going to buy your gas. So now the Department of Environmental Quality can verify that we have this leak-proof system. And by them being able to verify that, the Wyoming Energy Authority can issue a certification saying that, yes, we have the cleanest fuel on the planet. And that's worth a 5 to 15% premium, depending on who you're dealing with. So that's the reason why we threw that voluntary standard in. That is to qualify for the Asian premium. Right now, folks, the gas industry's changed. People don't like to burn gas anymore. The market has shifted, and it's shifting right now. I mean, it's not like we're behind, it's happening right now. And so if we shift, all we're doing, that's all this is the Wyoming gas industry is pivoting with the global economy. And we could be the first, guys. You know, this is the thing that, as a Wyoming boy, I want to tell you, it means a lot to me. I always hear, well, Texas is doing that. California is doing this. This is a solid plan. And this is Wyoming. Wyoming could set the precedent on this. We have the ability to beat Texas. We have the ability to beat Louisiana. And our global competitors are Australia, Qatar, and Russia. And we can beat all three of them too. There is no reason that Wyoming cannot be a global energy provider. We could be the first. If we get a pipeline access to Baja in Mexico, we will be 14 days faster than either Louisiana or Texas because they have to go through the Gulf of America and the Panama Canal. So our straight shot is way, way faster. We have every advantage. With that,
Mr. Chairman.
I'd stand for any questions.
Thank you, Representative Harrelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative Campbell, thank you for coming today, bringing this conversation forward. It's obvious you have done a lot of research. You know what you're talking about. Couple questions. One, is there, have you been in contact with industry on this? Do we have industry that's saying, yes, this is something we're wanting to jump on? And just hold up, I got a couple more questions to throw on top of that. Second of all, you say a pipeline. Do we have a pipeline? What does it mean to turn around and to run ammonia through these pipelines? Is there contamination concerns? Obviously, ammonia is higher corrosiveness than, say, hydrogen. There's the ability to liquefy ammonia. So I just have a lot of kind of, I guess, probably at the end of the day, because all we're here to do is talk about your fiscal note, really. But I do want to kind of know, is there a viability to this, or is this could possibly work, or are there businesses waiting for this legislation to become reality and pipelines sitting ready to be used? Is it something that we feel like we actually are going to see traction and action if this were to become law?
Mr. Chairman and Representative Harrelson, thank you for that question. This is entirely viable. Again, this is going to go back. There is billions of dollars of steel that's in the ground right now that is underutilized because of the dead pooled gas situation that we have. You are correct. We could use the steel in existing pipelines is totally compatible with ammonia. You are very correct that our softer metals like brass and copper, a lot of those metals are in valves, and those are not compatible with pneumonia, so they would have to be replaced. Much in the same line that you were talking about compatibility, currently natural gas pipelines would have compressor stations. Those compressor stations would have to be traded out and replaced with pump stations. But still, this would be upon the builder of the facility to get this. The pipelines are there, not all the way. I think there would have to be like 150, I think, miles it is to actually get it. But what we would do is we would follow down through the Colorado pipe pathway over to the Santa Fe, cut across through Mexico or New Mexico, and that would get us very close. Like I said, I think it would be about 150 miles short. But still, the beauty of this concept by repurposing existing lines is number one, all the regulatory hurdles have been through. All the easements are in place. Everything is there. And I think that anybody who would want to do this would look at that because it would be a great cost savings as to having to bring in a new build. You'd have to go in and do some surgical replacement of what we spoke of. But as a general rule of thumb, you're looking at less than half the cost of a new build in the speed because all the regulatory hurdles have already been cleared.
Follow up? Okay. Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was excellent. It's the second time I've heard that spiel, and it made a whole lot more sense this time. So thank you for that. I did have a question. We got this pipeline down there that was developed to how natural gas, I guess it was. And now we're going to put ammonia through it. So we've got before we had a leak-proof system guarantee. Now we got to change out valves and seals and other things, or they have to be here. How do we maintain that leak-proof guarantee? Just a curiosity.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Pendergraft, thank you very much for that question. One of the biggest complaints that I get about this bill is people see that word sovereignty. And they say, what's up with that, Rep? Are we becoming our own nation? No, we're not. We are sovereign in the fact that we are creating, in America, we ship ammonia via pipeline all the time. That's how our breadbasket gets all their fertilizers, is via liquid ammonia. We've been doing that for 60, 70 years. The sovereignty comes because Wyoming is taking a raw product, natural gas, Wyoming natural gas. And we are manufacturing this raw product into a manufactured product inside of Wyoming. This is a 100% sovereign thing. So once this is made, whoever wants to take on this task, that again is going to fall on them. We don't have a raw material. It's no longer natural gas. Now it is a manufactured product from a sovereign state. And so we don't have anything to do. We have a Wyoming certification saying, hey, this is the cleanest fuel. This is the cleanest energy on the planet Earth.
Follow up? Any other questions from the committee? Representative Allman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here, Mr. Campbell, Representative Campbell. Talk to me a little bit of who's interested in doing this? State of Wyoming can't afford it. Are there companies who would come in and do this and pay everything?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Alleman, thank you for that question. Yes, I had asked Mr. Krieger with the WEA. He is going to give me some examples. Pardon me for. Pardon me for just 1 second here. What I asked, and Mr. Krieger's not here for, but he has assured me that we can get this, and I think a simple Google search can satisfy most of your curiosity. But what I asked him is, I said, would you please bring any non-binding letters of intent or interest from any of the Asian governments or manufacturers? I'm looking for proof to show viability for the JAC. So I was a little bit ahead. I figured somebody was going to ask that question. I don't think Rob's going to be able to be here because he's on another committee, but I do think that a simple Google search will satisfy your curiosity. And not only that, but this is not just a Wyoming thing. That's where I wanted to point out that sovereignty. Our president of our United States, I don't know, it was the same day that California told me to go away. So it would have been the 12th. I was watching on Newsmax or Fox, one of them, and the president came out, made an announcement that Asia was going to invest $750 billion in American energy projects. And I thought, oh my, because this fits everything. This fits the president's directive. This helps our allies, our global allies, with their energy demands. It meets the executive's energy policies for the state. I think this is a good bill, guys. I ask for your eye approval on this.
Representative Pendergraft.
Last question. It might be a tough one, though. You've told us many of the benefits It's one of those deals that almost sounds too good to be true. What's the Achilles heel of this? What's the thing you're most afraid of?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Pendergraph, the biggest concern that I've heard so far, and it's really not a concern, they said, well, you're going to produce all this carbon black. And the more, that was the only concern, you know, what are you going to do with all this? But the more I look into it, the stronger it makes my heart, because it still continues to be too good to be true. Right now, it's selling on the open market at $1,600 a ton. But I have just recently learned that the Australians, again, another huge gas producing company, and again, another huge turquoise hydrogen outfit, what they have done is they have found that the nanocarbons produced during the turquoise hydrogen process are excellent road base. One of the biggest problems with roads is there's still porosity. There's pockets of air between the asphalt and the aggregates. These little micro particles lay in and they fill in all those gaps. So they found that by adding this to your road base, not only does it make it more water freeze resistant, but because of the black, it keeps it a darker black to resist ice melt and all that too. I honestly, Representative, I have not heard, I have no downside to this bill.
Follow up? No. All right. I do have one quick question, and thank you for your presentation. I also appreciated attending one of your hydrogen explanations of the different colors of hydrogen you've done. And I guess one of my biggest questions is our state has tried to have hydrogen here, but through a different method than natural gas, and they want to use water. Can you help me understand how much easier is the process from hydrogen from natural gas and ammonia versus using water? And 30,000 foot view.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that question. And Representative Smith, real simple. There's a whole bunch of colors. All of them, with the exception of turquoise hydrogen, use water. The color code is determined by what feedstock is used, what energy or what process is used, and where the energy source for that process comes from. So for example, green hydrogen is the one that most people are familiar with because you're taking water as a feedstock. You're performing simple electrolysis, separating the hydrogen from the oxygen. And in order for that color code to be green, that power for that electrolysis must come from wind and solar. If you were to take out the wind and solar component and put a nuclear plant in there, now it's pink hydrogen. All of the colors, with the exception of turquoise hydrogen, use water as a feedstock. Turquoise hydrogen is very advantageous to Wyoming because not only do we have a lot of natural gas, but it doesn't use any water. There are technologies, I personally, and this is my own personal bias, but Wyoming is a high desert state. We simply do not have the water resources to do this on an industrial scale. You know, maybe if we had Lake Michigan in our front yard, we could look at that. But because of how constrained we are, that puts us at a disadvantage for industrial purpose. However, we still do have opportunity to use water, as we've been looking, and the University of Wyoming has looked into this as well. But taking wastewater from our various industrial activities and using that to create hydrogen. But as far as our potable ag domestic water, that's really not a industrially feasible option in Wyoming. That's why it never has bloomed. But now, because of natural gas in the pivot, like I say, we're in this. It's happening right now, guys. Right now, they're soliciting contracts and doing all this. So everything is live. Everything is live.
Thank you, Representative. Seeing no further questions from the committee, is there anyone in the audience that would like to bring forth any testimony? Anyone from the public or agencies, other elected officials, associations? Come forward, please. There's plenty of room for everyone. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks. Mr. Chairman, Rennie McKay, President of the Wyoming Business Alliance. And one of our key priorities for the business community in Wyoming is that we maintain our energy leadership, and really appreciate Representative Campbell bringing this bill. I think several of you may have heard of this over the years, but this concept or a concept similar to this has been around for a while. It started under the Meade administration and some trips to Canada. So in Alberta, which is the main oil producing province, there's the Alberta Industrial Heartland, which is become a place where there's been added a lot of value to the oil products. And so that's been around now for, boy, that's probably coming on at least 15, if not 20 years. And some of the same concepts that are in this bill exist there to kind of create a permitted zone to encourage that added value for our energy products. So appreciate Representative Campbell bringing this. I think he referenced the Asian planned investment. So I do agree with him that there is some unique opportunities that exist right now because of those announcements from the Asia Pacific. So I think this is a very unique idea. I do appreciate that Representative Campbell is also willing to have the conversation about what happens next, and that this is a concept that should be extended beyond just natural gas. It's a timing issue, I think, for him about when he wants to deal with that. But the coal to product idea is, I think, very valuable for Wyoming to keep in mind, and this idea of how can we be more nimble as a state, and then also the concept of bringing in the counties to help identify the zones means that you've got a locally driven process to say that a county wants this. So there's a couple other ideas out there that I know you could consider the industrial siting permitting process, and if you want to create that exemption around that. So there's lots more to talk about, but just wanted to make sure you all knew that the industries of Wyoming are watching this closely and like the concept, and do think we can continue to look at this, I think, as we talk about a lot of our natural resource assets and have that leadership opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, and there's no one online, and so I will close public comment. Committee, what's your pleasure?
Move the bill to pass.
Okay, we have Representative Alaman moving the bill do pass, Representative Angelos seconding. Since we're not really working the bill, we'll just go straight to the fiscal notes. Representative Sherwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In reviewing the fiscal notes, we do see that there is an impact to the Wyoming Energy Authority and to the Department of Revenue. So because I want to set this bill up for success and make sure the agencies have what they need to support the establishment of these zones, my motion would be to include an appropriation of $90,000 for the Wyoming Energy Authority to use for personal benefits or contractual services, so between the 100 and 900 series. And then my second appropriation would be to the Department of Revenue for $43,956 for contractual services. That would allow them to update their current system to make sure that the exemptions in this bill and the rate code are plugged in and calculated correctly. That would be in the 900 series.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table.
I'll second for discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So to the good bringer, I know that there was conversation that when coal was added in, it shifted that price of the fiscal note. Now we have an amendment that has come out of the standing committee that removes coal, brings it back underneath a little more purview of the county commissioners. I mean, I guess I'm looking out. Do we have an idea of what the shift in fiscal policy was when we put coal on? Is this current fiscal policy with coal included? You'll have to get permission from the chairman to come on up, but if we could get, I would request the chairman would give that opportunity to have that conversation.
Please, Representative Campbell and your guest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, there is a fiscal change on that. And on that day, the contractors that they used were not available, so we were delayed on that. And then I think that's changed since then, and I'll let Mr. Sachet.
Please introduce yourself.
Mr. Chairman, Matt Sachet, I'm the Administrator of the Mineral Tax Division of the Department of Revenue. We did have a fiscal note that included coal based on the amendments that were provided. That fiscal note was $55,985 for both the coal and the natural gas together. I imagine they were able to reuse coding that they were going to have to create for the natural gas. That's why it's not double. But the current with just the natural gas is $43,956. And I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm glad that you're here. Looking at the fiscal note, says legislation generally exempts sales and use tax from the purchase or lease of machinery used within these zones. Could you comment on the rest of the industries, extraction industries, and how that's done?
Representative Campbell.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Pendergraft, I apologize. That's a big part of this bill, and I didn't bring that in. What we're doing is we are giving a 2%. Right now, our severance taxes are all set at 6%. And what we're doing is we're giving a 2% reduction in severance taxes. This is only for gases that are used in the manufacturing process in that zone. And basically what we're doing, Representative Pendergraft, is right now, our gas market, we get 6% of a constricting piece of the pie. What we're doing is we're giving them a 2% incentive to use their gas into that zone. And then the value added products, we're taking a $2 product and turning it into $20. So then we'll turn around and get a 3% tax on that value added product. So we're giving a little on the small piece, but we're getting a whole bunch on the big piece.
Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you. And thank you, Representative Campbell. I understand that part. It's the next paragraph talking about sales and use tax exemptions on machinery used within these zones. And if you could relate that to how sales and use taxes normally apply to other extractive industries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative. That is existing law. That is existing Wyoming law for manufacturing and everything. There is nothing given to them. That is for everybody.
Okay, committee, we have a motion on the table, been seconded by Representative Haroldson. All in favor of this, or All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion passes.
Mr. Vice Chairman,
Yeah,
I do have a question. Are you just including fiscal year 27, that 90,000, not 27 and 28?
Representative Sherwood?
Gosh. Sorry, Jackie, are you referencing the funding for the Wyoming Energy Authority?
Yes.
So I think we will include funding. Oh, you're right. Thank you for the catch. For fiscal year 27 and 28. And then have a footnote to say that the agency will need to request it in their next biennium budget. Thank you for that.
Committee, what's your pleasure? So we move the bill. Any other amendments? Seeing none, Ms. Childress, will you please take roll?
Roll call vote, House Bill 120 do pass as amended. Representative Alaman?
Aye.
Representative Angelos? Chairman Bear?
Aye.
Representative Carrollton?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraph?
Aye.
Representative Sherwood?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Vice Chair, 7 aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, committee, and we are adjourned.